Welcome to part 3 of Style Arsenal. We're going to use the basic brushes we created last time to build some more complex ones. First, I've just applied those brushes to these lines and shapes, and we're going to export those and use them to build even more complex brushes. Back in Export Persona, just the same as we did before, so go check the previous video. Before I delete these, sometimes I like to keep a collection in my assets panel of pieces I've used before in case I want to go back and reference them. So select all the items, group them, and then add from selection into the assets panel, and then you can go ahead and delete the originals. So in the pixel persona, we're going to go to the brush menu, pull down a new round brush, and I'm going to make a bunch of these. I'll probably speed through them, but here's the basic pattern. We're going to go to the Textures tab, select one of the images we just saved, and then adjust the scale, make it really small. What that does is create a very fine repeating pattern in the background, and the round brush will just reveal it. So there it is. That was the vertical line we saved. But we can do this with the circles and the triangles, and you can also invert these. So you can make a version, duplicate it, and then hit the invert button, and you've got the reverse of what you initially created. So I'm going to speed through and make a bunch of these using the circle and triangle graphics that we saved earlier. This type of brush I call toner brushes because they remind me of Zip-A-Tone or the Ben-Day dots that you use in comics to create value with black and white. So they're really great for adding geometric, flat color in kind of an organic way. Speaking of comics, hatch marks are a great way to add texture, and we can create a hatch brush. We're going to use those 3 lines we created earlier. I'm going to go to the General tab and space them out, and then under Dynamics we're going to add some rotation. Just max it out and turn it to random, and that allows you to build up hatch marks really quickly, but also it gives it kind of an organic look. Unlike that, without the rotation, you get the stiff kind of up and down. If you like that, great, but by adding the rotation you can add the more kind of nuanced and organic look. Let's take that idea of a hatch brush one step farther. I'm going to max out the size to create a stamp brush temporarily, and by using my arrow keys I can manually rotate the brush until I create a hatch that I like. Maybe I'll do like a hexagonal shape, like almost like a snowflake, and then we can export that shape to make yet another stamp. Speed through the export process, but the same thing as usual. And just as before, pull that into our brush engine, change the rotation, adjust the spacing, go to the Dynamics. I'm going to tweak the scatter X and scatter Y axis just to randomize this a bit. Do some rotation. I like to put the rotation jitter at maximum and use the random just to randomize everything. That works for mouse as well as a tablet. I'm going to tighten that up a little bit, give a few more instances. I love that you can keep the brush engine open and test and tweak it. It's something that Illustrator doesn't really do. So yeah, I kind of like that. Make a copy of it. Adjusting the spacing to create different values and different texture intensities. Just kind of saves time. Up until this point we've been looking at textured intensity brushes. Now we're going to do some textured image brushes. So the great thing about image brushes is they preserve color. They don't just work in black and white, they actually will preserve whatever color. Even a photograph can be used as a brush. In this case, I'm taking the second graphic that we exported way back in the first part of the series, and I'm just adjusting the colors CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and I'm exporting those to my desktop. The only difference when you make an image brush is just to select new image brush instead of new intensity brush, and then pick your colored image. You see on the thumbnail in the brush palette there's a white halo around the blue. That's going to be a problem, and I'm going to show you why that is and how to fix it. Basically, if you are exporting from a white background, your export persona will pick up the white or whatever color is behind there. So it's good to know. If you wanted a white halo, then congratulations, you got that. But otherwise, what we need to do is turn off the background and set it to transparency. So go under the document setup, under the design persona, and just tick that transparent background box. And you see now you got the checkerboard effect. Go back into our export persona. I'm going to export those slices on top of the old ones. Now that you know that trick, you'll never make that mistake again, or if you do, you'll know how to fix it. Okay, now that we fixed that problem, let's have some fun. We're going to re-import that cyan PNG as a new image brush, and I'll just show you how the both in the thumbnail and when you actually paint with the brush, there's no white halo anymore. That's happy news for us. I'm going to do some adjustments here. I'm just going to play around. We can make a complex brush by doing the rotation and scatter. I like using the random. That works well if you are using a mouse. You don't have to use the Wacom or tablet tools to do that. You can adjust the size jitter to get a more tapered on the ends. You can also do the opacity jitter, so you get some almost like watercolor effects if you want to try that out. That is a neat tool. It's not really what I want for this style set, but I'll probably just leave it in there. Go ahead and duplicate that, and I'm going to actually add a separate color. I can add the magenta PNG, and now we've got this back and forth color. If I don't like it, I could hit the remove button. I can make a copy of that and then go and click on the I'll just make a solid magenta as well. But we're going to play around a little bit with how these brushes work when you have multiple color options. You can set them to randomly oscillate between the two colors or three colors or how many you add in. You can do it in a sequence. First, I'm just going to create identical brushes. By bringing in the other color PNGs, before I delete the initial color, I get to preserve all the settings, and my brushes are identical with only the difference being the change of color. I'm going to make another image brush with the cyan first, and this time we're going to add a texture in the background. So we're going to combine the image color brush with the texture by importing that triangle from our initial shapes that we saved at the very beginning of the video. And now I get to reveal the triangles with that brush shape instead of a round brush shape. And you could tweak the settings and have it opacity and a bunch of other stuff to randomize how that looks, but I'm going to add in colors instead. All three will have the cyan, magenta, and yellow. And now it's almost like a crayon rubbing, revealing the textures, but notice that every time I pass over the triangles again, it's going to change it because it's randomized. So if you don't like how the color is looking, just go back over it and it will change the color for you. You can also set that there's other options besides random. They cycle through. You can do pressure if you have a tablet. You can use cycle. The cycle option will literally just cycle the colors through. Okay, we'll call that a wrap on part 3. We've got 2 more parts to go. Next time we're going to do a couple final touches before we jump into part 5 and start applying this style arsenal to an illustration. I hope you've learned something, and if you have, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'll answer them if I can. And I'll see you in the next episode.